Sometimes a bike keeps the same name but everything else changes, and that's exactly what's happened here with the 2026 KTM 390 Adventure R. KTM have completely gone back to the drawing board for this one. If you've ridden the old 390 Adventure, forget everything that you think you know. This is a whole new kettle of fish. New engine, new chassis, new suspension, new attitude. At the heart of it is KTM's new 399 single-cylinder engine, which produces 44 horsepower and 39 newton meters of torque. It's punchy, it's lively, and it makes this bike really fun to ride without the feeling that you're really having to overwork it. Add in 230 millimeters of fully adjustable suspension, proper adventure ergonomics, rider modes, traction control, and a screen that offers decent protection. And suddenly the 390 Adventure R starts to look like a very complete package. If you're an adventure rider who values lightweight, agility and confidence over outright horsepower, if your riding is a mix of B roads, green lanes, back roads and the occasional longer trip, this genuinely might be the only bike that you'll ever need. So in this video I want to find out what KTM have actually built, how it rides on the road, how it feels off it, and whether the 2026 KTM 390 Adventure R actually delivers on what that badge has always hinted at. I reviewed the original 390 Adventure a few years ago when it was launched, and it was a great little bike. I really enjoyed riding it, but in reality it was just a 390 Duke dressing up. It still had cast wheels, it didn't really have any kind of off-road focus. This however is a completely different beast, and the first thing you notice when you jump on it is it doesn't feel like a small bike. It's a small capacity bike, but it isn't a small bike. I've got a 32-inch inside leg and I'm 5'10", and I can kind of almost flat foot this, not quite, I'm kind of on the balls of my feet, but it doesn't feel particularly lofty in that sense. So ergonomically pretty good, nice reach to the bars, relatively comfortable seat with the pegs are high-ish, but I've got a decent bend in my legs. I rode it initially back from KTM and took a very long route back home, covered about 140 miles, so not a huge distance, but enough of a first ride to get a feel for it. And straight away from that I got the feeling that this is a bike that you could happily ride long distances. One, because of the ergonomics and the comfort of the bike setup, but two, because of this cracker of an engine. Now the old 390 Adventure was quite a peppy little machine. This is just a rev monster. You can see it red lines at 10,000, and whilst you do have to work the engine to get the most out of it, it responds. It doesn't feel like you're really thrashing it, it just likes to be revved, and the performance really surprised me. I've never really felt like I haven't got enough power on this bike. Yeah, okay, it is a small capacity machine, you have to get that, but roads like this on sort of back lanes, it's no, you know, I'm covering ground as quickly as I would do on my Africa Twin. So whilst it's an engine that likes to be revved and ragged around, it's actually pretty happy sitting on the motorway. You'll sit at 70 miles an hour at just over 6,000 revs, which sounds like quite a lot, but as I say, when this revs to 10, it's no problem whatsoever, and it will do that all day long, and it's pretty comfortable in that sense. Yeah, there's some vibes. It's a single, a 399cc single, so you're going to get some vibrations, but KTM have done a pretty good job at disguising it. I'm not really getting very much through the bars or through the pegs or through the seats, but you know, if you're buying a bike like this, then you're going to be expecting that, and it's actually much nicer than I was expecting. I was expecting it to be a much harsher ride. Vibes are obviously there. The bike's recently had a recall for a replacement spring on the side stand. KTM found that the vibrations were causing that spring to snap. It was a poor spring. So that recall has been done, and again I've seen people commenting, oh well, you know, KTM don't help themselves, do they? A brand new bike and it's had a recall. You know, these things happen. All bikes tend to have some kind of issues somewhere along the line. But I think the problem is because it's KTM, it gets kind of shown and highlighted in a much stronger sense than it would do in maybe other bikes. But for buzzing around the country lanes like this, it is an absolutely brilliant thing. And then if the fancy takes you, you can take a little detour. Now, as I've said before in these videos, I don't have access to a lot of off-road where I am. There's probably more. Most of the off-road, I think, around here you'll need a trail bike, and I tend to ride a bigger adventure bikes. So the off-road element of this is going to be limited. If you want to see somebody absolutely ragging this off-road, then I'll put a link in the top corner for you to go away and have a look at Chris Northover's video on Bike World, where he really puts this bike to the test off-road, and he finds some limitations, but I think he's generally pretty happy with it. This is not the video for that. I am no Sam Sunderland, far from it. I've done a little bit of off-roading, but not a huge amount. The one thing I will say is these tyres on here are pretty decent. On the tarmac and on gravel, they've been really good, particularly on tarmac. I've never felt like I've had to kind of moderate my riding from how I would normally ride. They've been really good. The one thing I have found though is when things start to get muddy, the rear struggles a little bit, because the blocks are quite big and they're quite close together in the centre to give you nice road manners. Once we start getting muddy, then you know you're going to struggle. So down here it's fine, but this video is not about proving how capable this is as an off-road bike. It is after all an adventure bike, not an enduro bike. But what I want to look at it for is actually, is this bike all you would really need for one-up touring and travelling? And one thing I've realised is I am still in street mode. So modes, I should just be able to push up on that. There we go, we've got rain. I can change that to off-road. I think if I press that goes off-road. So off-road mode is configured. Suspension is nice and plush, actually very nicely damped. I'm not finding it springy or bouncy, and it is adjustable, which is good to see. For standing, it's not a bad standing position. I'd probably like the bars to be a touch higher, but generally it's pretty good. We've got very intuitive controls here, pretty similar configuration to most other KTMs. When I rode up to collect this, I took the Africa Twin, so it was quite a dramatic change coming from that big, heavy, talky bike to this lightweight little revvy machine. Within the first couple of miles, I'd adjusted to it, and I really enjoyed it. What you really appreciate with this bike is the lightness. It will rip. It's a hell of a lot of fun. Now I'll talk about some of the little things that matter, some of which I don't normally bother with, things like mirrors. But we've got, you know, a pair of round, ordinary looking mirrors on here. But they're positioned really well. They're out wide. I've only got the slightest amount of arm and shoulder in the view. They work really well. The screen is actually much better than I was expecting as well. It's not the tallest screen, but it's nice because it doesn't obstruct your view. It's well out of the way. But having that hole in the middle works really well, because what happens, the air hits that and it kicks up over the top. So I'm getting very minimal wind noise on the helmet. I think this is actually very good. There's no adjustability, it is what it is. And we've got this kind of faux Dakar style tower with the clock on. It looks purposeful. I think it's a lovely looking machine actually. This bike is fitted with a quick shifter, which is an optional extra, but again, as usual with KTM, it works really, really well. Slick, only the occasional missed shifts, but that's more down to the fact that I'm wearing a brand new pair of boots than anything else. Is there anything that I don't like about the bike? Well, I have to be honest and say, not really. It looks fantastic. That engine is superb. You've got good protection from the screen. I've got a really nice clear dash with easy to use controls. There's very little to dislike about it. Just a quick word about the brakes. No problems with those at all. Almost not worth mentioning, but you know, people like to hear about them. So we've got a single disc on the front, bi-brake calipers front and rear, and they do the job. They pull you up pretty sharpish. They've got kind of nice feel. They don't feel wooden at all. I've never felt that I've not had enough brake. Rear brake's particularly good. KTM have built a little cracker here, and if this is the sort of bike that pushes your buttons, then I would definitely recommend getting out and giving one a try. Woohoo! So much fun. So having spent time on this bike, the biggest takeaway of the 390 Adventure R isn't one standout feature, it's how complete this bike feels as a package. The engine has enough punch to be fun. The suspension gives it real off-road credibility, and on the road it's comfortable, stable and easy to live with. It doesn't feel like a compromise, which I have to say the previous model did. This is a deliberate, well thought out package. And it looks the part as well. It may be small in capacity, but it's not small in stature. That seat height, for example, is 870 millimeters, which is pretty tall. But the front of that seat is quite narrow. The whole bike is very slim, but that means that you can get your feet down and it doesn't feel as high as that 870 millimeters would suggest. That engine is pretty frugal, so the 14 litre fuel tank does actually give a pretty decent range, and all in, fully fueled, ready to go, this bike tips the scales at 176 kilograms. For a lot of riders, this is the kind of bike that you can just get on and go anywhere. B roads, back lanes, green lanes, commuting, weekends away, it just gets on with it. And then there's the price, of course, at £6,199 on the road. This is a lot of very capable adventure bike for the money. Lightweight, properly equipped, genuinely versatile, and without the size, weight or cost that comes with bigger adventure machines. And honestly, even if you take the price out of the equation, with this bike, it's hard not to be impressed.